This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now, from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Hey, to have you with us. Half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Stock up for a big weekend because you got the Eagles playing for the Super Bowl this weekend. Kansas City Buffalo playing for the Super Bowl this weekend. Commanders playing for the Super Bowl this weekend. A lot going on. Really, really cool. You want to stock up at Brewers Outlet. Imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks, lots of snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. Pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills. Indeed, second to none. Ready to drink cocktails, by the way, now. High Noon, Crown Royal, Jack Daniels. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury. The beverage supermarket. We bring in a guy that is really part of the rudder of this show. I mean, just steadies the ship every time. That's Neal Coolong. My friend, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
As always, it's great to be here this freezing late January day.
Oh, it is. I know it's brutal there. It's brutal here. Same story. And it's snowing in New Orleans and Houston.
Right.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's like Myrtle Beach is getting 3 to 5 inches of snow. Myrtle Beach? What? Oh my goodness. I want to ask you about Jalen Hurts. 2 years ago, I felt like he was on the verge of being the gold standard of the league. The last year and a half, he has been anything but. He's good, but he's not great. And I've been telling people here, I keep looking at the Eagles' offense. I feel like he's the weak link. All right. Oh, no. It's like, why don't you watch the games? He got sacked 7 times the other day, fumbled the ball. All right. And I just feel like he's not seeing the field. Like it's like he's not quite sure, as opposed to 2 years ago where I felt like every time he threw it was going to be a big play. What's your thought?
I think it's you want to be careful because there's a lot that goes on that you don't know about, but just viewing it purely on process leading to results, I would venture a guess that maybe the Eagles have added more complexity into his reads, what he's supposed to look for, what he's looking to do. It seems like he's making more decisions post-snap than he was previously under Shane Steichen. It looks to me like perhaps he's got a few more things that he has to evaluate before figuring out where he's going to go with the ball. And he's not processing that as quickly as he probably should be. And some of that is later in the season, I think you see offenses tend to kind of slow down a bit. Obviously, depending on what game you're watching, Washington does not have this problem. But in some cases, defenses have just that much more film to evaluate and to look at to kind of figure out. As opposed to the first half of the season when there really isn't all that much to look at. You have more and more of it every game. So defenses are going to find out little things, to throw at quarterbacks, and with that, the quarterback gets tricked up a little bit more often, and perhaps that's kind of compelling them to operate a little bit more slowly, a little bit more carefully than they were. But yeah, Hurts was he was struggling. Not a great performance, I thought, overall. We definitely have seen him play a lot better. Even just it doesn't seem like it was that long ago when the Pittsburgh Steelers were still relevant. It might have been Jalen Hurts' best game as a pro. I mean, he was on everything. Teams have really slowed him down since then, and I think the indecisiveness seems to be a result. Just in my opinion, he's not seeing exactly what defenses are doing right away. He's a little bit more gun shy than he has been in the past when he was at his best. We've seen him play pretty well over stretches and at times this season, but you're not feeling a whole lot of confidence in him throw to throw anymore, and that might be a problem come Sunday. And it's a game that on paper Philadelphia probably should win. Washington got the better of them the last time they played. They scored points, though. I don't think Hurts was terrible the second time they played the Commanders this season.
Right.
But Dan Quinn's a big game coach, so it would concern me, or big half of big game at least. 28-3 was a pretty dominant half. I remember writing it at halftime of that game. Dan Quinn just might have put on the greatest one-half performance in Super Bowl history. It didn't work out so well in the second half, but the Eagles are facing a pretty tough task when it comes to Commanders' defense that can get after quarterbacks. I don't think they were great either in their divisional round game, but see what physical condition Hurts is in for this game and what that's going to do to their game plan. I think this might be, you're going to ride Saquon Barkley until he falls apart if you have to. I'm not sure what Hurts is really going to bring, but he's got to up his game quite a bit.
Well, if I'm Ashton Genty of Boise State, I'm Travion Henderson of Ohio State, I would owe a debt of gratitude to Derrick Henry and to Saquon Barkley, because I feel like they've taken the running back market and they've upped the ante, showing how valuable running backs are. How do you feel about that?
I think it's funny, because I was thinking about this when talking to somebody last week along similar lines. It was Le'Veon Bell who made the statement that he wanted to reset the market, and the nonsense he put forward about he's holding out with his contract because he wants to secure the future players. And guys like Derrick Henry, it's unreal what he's doing. He doesn't look like he's lost much.
Right.
And statistically speaking, he is so far. I don't think there's anybody that's more outside the norm than Henry is. And Barkley, I think Barkley might be the most realistic standard, because really what you look at with both is, and Barkley's younger, but comparatively speaking, the two of them, the thing that they have in common is excellent offensive schemes for what they're doing. And what that says to me is they aren't looking at data, history, past indications of what could be. They're just simply planning on their running back being successful. And they're setting their offense up for their running back to be successful and letting the talent of those two guys carry it the rest of the way. Baltimore, Todd Monken, I probably ran into some problems, and most people aren't really praising his name in Baltimore after Sunday's game. But what a phenomenal job he did all year. I don't think he got nearly as much credit as he should have. A couple head coaching looks. I was kind of surprised there wasn't more, but their scheme was dominant, and it's so perfectly catered to the players they have. That might be what pushes Monken out of head coaching consideration. It's not that much different in Philadelphia, though. We've known that Saquon Barkley is a great player, but in reality, you're looking at what could have been, the single season rushing record. You knew that he was good, but you've got to have the scheme around it. So to me, the question is, the younger guys who are coming up, and this is a great group of running backs coming into this draft. Jahmyr Gibbs is a good example of this as well. What teams want to focus their offense in a run-first manner that can still produce explosive results? Who wants to set that up? Because I don't want to say that the talent alone is what's driving those offenses, though they are being run by, my opinion, Hall of Fame level players. It's more of the marriage of their talent along with a scheme that isn't afraid to defy conventional thinking, which is to say you can't run the ball and win. I will say this. How much would Kevin O'Connell have absolutely loved to have a great running back the last 2 weeks?
Yes.
How much pressure would that have helped? It helped alleviate? What could they have done if O'Connell believed in an offense that wanted to run the ball? He's going to throw all day, all night. And by and large, he's going to have a lot of success doing that. But the run-first mentality worked very well for Detroit. They kind of caught a buzzsaw, and I wouldn't necessarily say it was the fault of the offense in that game. Philadelphia has taken it to the championship game where they're favored playing at home against the team they beat this season. Very well could be a run-based offense in the Super Bowl. They could ride Saquon Barkley all the way to another ring. That's not something we talked about at the beginning of the year because we are so trained that running backs aren't solutions to anything.
Right.
You and I have talked about this a lot over the years. The key to the NFL, year in and year out, take it in 3-4 year increments, call it a generation, one generation of players. The ones who win overall, yes, you have the quarterback that can play in the clutch. Overall, be better than their opponent, beat defenses on their own when needed. But there's something about those teams, whatever it is, over those generations, that really can be equated to a market inefficiency everywhere else that they've capitalized on. They find something other people are not doing particularly well, and they're not built to stop. I think that's really a lot of what Sirianni emphasizes with his offenses. That's a lot of what Monken did in Baltimore. And there are other people throughout the years. Ben Johnson was the top offensive coordinator in the last 2 hiring cycles because of his ability to create explosive offense featuring running backs.
Right.
And it's something that can be done on the cheap. Market inefficiency is that nobody's going to draft these running backs because they're not supposed to. So instead of taking Najee Harris, you can take one that has some explosive ability and use them on 3 downs. Get them in space, set them up to do things. That's where the value is. And with that, the Eagles must have been, beside themselves when they were able to sign Saquon Barkley. It's the guy we don't have to spend draft capital on. Yeah, he's going to cost a few bucks, but he's going to get 300 touches. He's going to be an all-pro level player. That puts it takes so much pressure off of our passing game, which is prolific anyway. Teams are not going to be able to defend us one way. If their strength is in this, we'll do that. That's market inefficiency. And the teams that are successful nowadays, in my opinion, the ones that are winning championships and in position to win a couple over a generation or two, they have that. They've honed in on something that they can do that other people just aren't willing to do. And I think that's really what Baltimore obviously fell a little bit short, but it's fair to say everyone thinks that game probably should have gone to overtime, and who knows what happens there. Right. Baltimore is doing it to a high degree of success recently. Philadelphia revitalized a franchise that, let's be honest, we were firing Nick Sirianni this time last year. We were surprised he still had a job. Look at what they were able to do because of their desire to implement and courageously go forward with a game-breaking type of running back. It's a great market for the running backs in this draft as well as free agency.
It's interesting. When certain guys come to the plate in baseball, you feel like there's a possibility of a home run at any moment. Aaron Judge is the perfect example of that. He comes to the plate like you think he might hit a home run. Barkley has become that kind of player in a game. The number of 40, 50, and 60-yard runs are remarkable, and they're all home run plays, Neal. I mean, there are very few players in the NFL, the second they touch the ball, you feel like there's a possibility of a home run.
That's what I love about watching Barkley, because Barkley, and not to keep sneering this toward the Steelers, but there are certain running backs in Pittsburgh that could learn something from this. When Barkley gets the ball, he doesn't see the blockers who are in front of him. He sees the end zone wherever it is.
Yep.
And he's aggressive. He attacks the line of scrimmage. He takes a sharp angle and then moves to avoid whatever is there. He doesn't wait for contact to come to him. He's taken the game to his opponent. He has that explosive ability. He's underrated agility, great top-end speed, but more than anything, it's his vision. And that, to me, vision and footwork, that's what makes a great NFL running back. Add balance into that. Barkley's got all of that. Derrick Henry is maybe one of the 5 best running backs of all time. He has always had the combination of those things.
Mm-hmm.
He's known for the power and everything like that. But Derrick Henry, you don't stop him behind the line of scrimmage because he weighs 240 pounds. You don't stop him behind the line of scrimmage because he's never behind the line of scrimmage. He gets the ball and he's across right away. He's just going. That takes vision to find out where to go all the time. Credit the offensive line. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but they are individual players, and there absolutely are better running backs than there are worse running backs. Yeah. The better ones stand out. You can see who they are because the offensive line is not as much an issue. When you get into the secondary, your offensive line isn't helping you. At that point, it's on you to make plays. And Barkley can hit that home run, like you suggested, because he's able to. He has the vision at the line of scrimmage to find that daylight to get going. He's quick enough, and his feet are nimble enough that he can make a move to make one guy miss. And from there, if your defense is not where it's supposed to be, he's going to beat you with his speed. And he does that. He gets outside once, twice a game. That's pretty remarkable if you think about it. And that's how you get 2,000 yards. That's how, my opinion is that you're the offensive player of the year. He's a great overall runner. Not just a running back. He's great in space, and a lot of it is just that initial burst. When he gets the ball, he's going forward. He sees where he wants to go. Obviously, it's not going to work every single time, but by and large, that effort, that confidence, that vision is what makes him a special player. And good for the Eagles to emphasize that as the Giants are home early yet again, trying to overhaul their entire team once more because they didn't want him. They didn't need him. Didn't want to pay him. They got plenty of money now, and they got no players. That's just as bad as being in a situation where you got 1 year left with a bunch of guys, you're way over the cap, and you're still not winning.
Yeah, as somebody who had the privilege of announcing all of Barkley's college games and probably seeing maybe 240, 250 practices he was in, you're spot on the whole thing. I mean, that's just the way he is. He's a perfectionist. I mean, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't need a coach to get mad at him. He climbs on himself, which is amazing. All right, so now we get to this round. And this round is the Daniels kid is interesting because you're talking about a 5-year college starter, 3 at Arizona State, 2 at LSU. And I know Nick Saban felt that the 2 toughest quarterbacks he prepared for when he was at Alabama were Joe Burrow and Jayden Daniels. What is it about him? Because I think the experience plays a role here. I know the speed of the NFL is way more than college, but he has seen at least a lot of speed of defenses in his lifetime. What makes him a good player to you?
2 things that stand out. One is kind of an intangible trait that's really hard to quantify, and the other is pretty obvious. The first one being nothing rattles him. He is just cool all the time. He doesn't get pressured. He's not yelling and screaming on the sideline. Even when he's celebrating, it's really not like a huge thing to him. He really is just in the moment. He's so present. It's impressive to look at. Football's an emotional game. I'm not trying to take away anything from anybody who celebrates, nor am I going to say that quarterbacks that show a bit of frustration and vent that openly are inherently bad. But you get it think of it as a player. If you're a teammate of Jayden Daniels, he's never down. He's always where he is. It feels like he gives you a fighting chance every time he touches the ball, because probably the physical trait that stands out the most. There are not many quarterbacks in the NFL, regardless of age or experience, who throw a more accurate deep ball than he does, and he knows it too. I think Cliff Kingsbury has done a phenomenal job in setting him up to do the things that he knows how to do well. And the big one is he can kill you outside the numbers, and they will. Once a game, they're going to get you. And they run it often enough that the threat is always there. But he sees that and knows whether or not he's going to take it. But they've already gotten him to the point that he can make 2-3 reads underneath that, knowing that option is still going to be there. And let's be honest. I mean, he was phenomenal on Sunday. Great to watch. Saturday, excuse me. A lot of theater that comes with a Jayden Daniels game because he is so good. He's so compelling in every way. But the big thing is he hasn't hit his ceiling. He's not all the way there yet. He's going to be. You can tell at times that they're able to break him. His focus is off a little bit. The reads aren't coming as easily to him, and he tends to kind of drift into that athleticism that he has. He wants to escape from the side and try to make plays on the run. Regardless of who you are, when you're throwing on the run, your completion percentage drops tremendously. So they want him to stay in the pocket. Anybody wants a quarterback to stay in the pocket because you can set your feet and deliver a throw with your shoulders facing where you're going. That's a critical component. Daniels, he stays there. He's not doing it all the time. They can get him off a little bit, but he's a rookie. He doesn't play like a rookie. He doesn't act like a rookie. And it just doesn't seem like anything is too big for him. And with that, I said this after the Steelers game earlier this season, like Washington is a much better team than their record indicates right now, and that's probably because the rookie hasn't quite got all of it yet. He's going too soon, and this kid's going to be a monster. And I think that's what Washington is tapping into now. Pretty tough opponent here, but did anybody pick them to beat Detroit? And they didn't just beat Detroit; they beat the brakes off them. That game wasn't competitive. He killed them.
Yep.
And you're seeing the next multiple MVP of the NFL start to come into his own. It's scary to watch. I think Cliff Kingsbury obviously is a guy that the teams would want to talk to as far as their head coaching availability would go. I don't think he wants to leave because, in all honesty, I think he sees what he has, and it's like, wow, this is something special. We're going to win here for a long time, and I can really get something with him. It's kind of like 5 years as a coordinator might be better than 2.5 as a head coach. So I've got that security here. Unless this deal is absolutely can't miss for me, I'm going to stay with Jayden Daniels because this kid's going to go all the way for not injury specific, but he's able to play at a higher level than he's at right now for a long time. And the NFL will not have seen a player like him when he hits his highest and best. And it's a joy to watch, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I said in the draft process the best spot to be is where Washington is right now because you get to take Jayden Daniels and not have the hype train that is Caleb Williams making highlight plays off schedule. Daniels can sit in the pocket and make reads. He can make throws. You can set him up athletically if you want to do that. But he is ahead of Williams as far as pocket presence and deep ball accuracy. That's a great place to start. And you saw it up and down. I mean, Daniels was just simply a better player all year.
And feel for the game.
He's a gamer. He's a winner.
He's ahead of Williams in the feel, the instincts of the game. Yeah,
exactly it. He's present is the word that I keep coming back to. Just the opposite of Caleb Williams. You want to go back. I mean, I understand Matt Eberflus probably did not handle a lot of things very well.
Sure.
And there was some weight that went into that Thanksgiving Day gaffe at the end. But your situation is such that you're a quarterback. There's a reason if your coach told you under no circumstances are you ever allowed to call a timeout, okay? There's a reason that they're telling him that. Williams takes a sack. They don't call timeout, which, without taking up too much time, I won't get into. It makes sense because you want the timeout after you get the yards to set up the chip shot field goal.
Right.
But before then, you can't take the timeout because you need to be able to use the whole field to get in position. If you want a shot at the end zone, the clock needs to be running because you have to be able to stop it. Therefore, you can go anywhere. Otherwise, you're restricted to the sidelines and the end zone. That's not all that great of a play when you're 53 yards away from a field goal. So Williams gets sacked. The clock is running. Williams takes forever to get up. Just no awareness at all. He doesn't know what's going on. He's confused. And then Eberflus doesn't call the timeout, which I'm not going to get into that. Probably a mistake because your quarterback, though, is the one who's struggling. He doesn't understand the situation. At that point, though, Matt Eberflus did not tell him to throw with 4 seconds left on the clock short of the end zone. At that point, you need to go for the win. I feel like Jayden Daniels, if he's in that situation, he knows what to do. He delivers the right throw to the right place for his team to have the best chance to win the game. I'm not saying that he's automatically successful, but I feel like Daniels would navigate that situation better than Williams would have. And maybe that's the experience piece that you talked about, but I don't want to say that Caleb Williams never played. He's never been in a 2-minute situation before.
Yes.
Daniels, to me, just seems like the winner. That's something that's going to go a long way for him.
My friend, always a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.